Hi Nick, we've been friends for a long time now, so I was just wondering, what's your involvement with Ducati?
Yeah, so Ducati have brought me on board to help out with introducing, I guess, their adventure model range. Obviously, the Ducati DesertX is a new model. They've had the multi-strata range for quite a few years now, and I've spent a fair bit of time the last few months riding the multi-strata V4, but now the DesertX is here. This will definitely be my top choice for adventure style bikes. So just helping them out to introduce the model, but also providing some feedback back to Italy about how the bikes handle off-road riding, and particularly in Australia, because our conditions can be pretty harsh here. So we tend to ride the bikes pretty hard off-road, so I'll be feeding some information back to Italy about that sort of thing as well.
I'm going to be riding this thing this afternoon. I'm going to go and do a bit of a lap. But just the horsepower wise, what CCs and the capacity, and then we'll go through the modes in a minute.
Yeah, sure. So it's a 937cc V twin engine, or really an L twin engine as Ducati likes to call it. So you're looking at about 110 horsepower, really good torque characteristics down low, being a V twin. It's a 21 litre fuel tank, so it gives you a fuel range probably of around about 400 kilometres, maybe 350 for riding it harder off-road. And the good thing is that it's a proper sort of off-road model in that it's got a 21-inch front wheel and an 18-inch rear, so really good size wheels for off-road riding.
To control the horsepower,
yep.
What have we got there?
So if we turned it on, nice TFT dash there, and you can see this one's kind of orientated in a portrait format, if you like.
That's a trick, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's kind of looks a little bit like a Dakar bike, I guess, in terms of that orientation with the screen. But neat thing with the Ducatis, they give us 6 riding modes on this model. So when we come into the main menu here, we can access all the different riding modes. So we've basically got 4 on-road modes. So we've got wet, touring, urban and sport are considered the on-road riding modes. You can see all of these have got Evo at the end of them. That's just because I've got that Termignoni race exhaust on there. So it's got a different fuel mapping basically with this system. So on most of the bikes you won't see that Evo at the end. But so we've got those 4 riding modes available to us when we're on the road. And then when we go off-road, we've got the choice of enduro or rally. So then in each one of those different modes, you can see down the bottom here all the different settings that will change. So for example, in rally mode, we get full power, so 110 horsepower. Ducati wheelie control or anti-wheelie control is turned off. Traction control, I've got that set to level 1 at the moment. By default, that's at level 2. Say if we go to wet mode, that will change to traction control level 8. So obviously in level 8, that's going to do everything it can to stop that wheel from spinning. And you can see wheelie control is at level 4 there. Enduro mode, say traction control level 3, wheelie control off. Then over here we've got Ducati Quick Shift, so that's the electronic quick shifter, so we don't need to use the clutch to change gears up or down. We can just bang up and down through the gearbox, and we don't need a clutch. ABS, there's 3 different levels with the ABS. So if we go to rally mode, it goes to level 1. So that means we've got ABS active on the front wheel, but no ABS on the rear. If we go to ABS level 2, when we're in enduro mode, that means we've got ABS front and rear, but it increases the threshold, if you like, of where that ABS will lock up. And then if we go into any of the road modes, that will take us into ABS level 3. So ABS active on both front and rear wheels, and obviously, the ABS is going to keep those wheels turning and, won't lock up if you're on wet bitumen. Then the last setting that changes over here is EBC, which is electronic brake control or engine brake control. So that changes how the bike responds when we back the throttle off. So if you can see, most modes are set at EBC level 2, but if we go to sport mode, it goes to EBC level 1, which that basically gives less engine braking. So when that changes how the bike responds when we close the throttle. So we've got a lot of adjustability. Yeah, exactly, under a compression lockup just from the engine braking. So we've got a heap of adjustability, and the neat thing is in any one of these 6 modes, we can go into the mode. So we can go in and customize it by going to the setting menu. Up the top here, go into the setting menu, and then we access each of those different riding modes, and we can customize all those different settings to suit what we want to do, the sort of riding we want to do. So, and the good thing is with the way Ducati treat that is that it remembers whatever setting you had. So if we go into riding mode, we go into rally mode, this is the one we're going to modify. And as I said, we could change the power output. There's basically 5 different power output levels, if you like. So we get power all the way down to 75 horsepower, but then we can also change how the throttle response is, whether it's dynamic or smooth. So you can see in rally mode, it's got full power dynamic throttle. Likewise, we can change the ABS levels, traction control levels, as I said, so we can turn traction control all the way off, for example. So now I've customised that riding mode to suit me and the way I ride, and then we can come back out of that, or we can change it back to default if we want, but we can come back out to the main menu now. And so my rally mode is now set with traction control off. And it'll remember that whether I turn the bike off at the key or the kill switch remembers all those settings.
Can you do that on the fly?
Yeah, so you can change between the 6 different riding modes on the fly, but you can't customise those riding modes. So what you normally do, you customise them first, then when you're riding along, all you need to do to change your mode, push that button for a second, and the modes come up on the screen there, and you've got the option to change the different modes you want. Select the next mode, and then just make sure you've got the throttle closed. So say if I want to go to enduro mode, I'd select that one, press the button again, close the throttle, it goes into that new mode.
That is trick.
Quick and easy.
There's a lot coming off a 700 or a 701.
There's a lot going on there.
I've got a bit to learn.
Yeah.
I won't be learning that at Sava.
The other thing too, you can see the layout of the dashboard here. If I go in now and change to one of the other riding modes, say one of the road modes, so now I've selected that one, we'll see the dash layout changes. Sorry, I've gone a bit of a convoluted way there. The way I should do it is like this, go to wet. So now we can see how the dash has changed to have a sort of traditional tacho there with speed. And so we can change that as well. So say, for example, if I'm going to be in rally mode, I could either have, or enduro mode, we could either have this dash displayed or we can have that tacho style one displayed. So, and we can also get turn directions come up on the dash here too if we
or connect it to your phone.
If you've got the Bluetooth dongle in there. As standard, it's got lots of functions on there with the, fog lights and DRL running lights. Cruise control is all standard. So really good suite of electronics on it. There's also an ABS button up there on the handlebar block on the left-hand side, so you can turn the ABS off on both front and rear wheels on the fly.
Talking about all the extras and everything you can buy on this bike, but just stock standard, the only thing it doesn't come with is handlings.
Yeah, heated grips. So it's actually got a button there for it, but the heated grips themselves aren't fitted. So when you order the bike, order the heated grips, and then it's already wired up there. This bike, as it is now, is bog stock except for that exhaust system. So that's the Trick Termignoni race exhaust system. So it has done away with the catalytic converter in this case. That increases the power output, about 7 horsepower, increases the torque. It's quite a bit lighter and it does sound good too. It's not offensively loud though, it's still got the baffle in there. So it's certainly not offensively loud the way it is there now, but sounds really trick.
So the wheels, spec-wise?
So as I said, 21-inch front wheel, 18-inch rear, and the really common sort of sizes. So the rear tyre is a 150, 70, 18, which is common obviously with a lot of other sort of adventure models. And they are tubeless wheels. You can see the spokes come to the outside of the rim there, so there's no sort of sealing tape or anything on the inside of the rim. You can easily convert them to tube tyres as well if you wanted to. A couple of other neat features I really love. The rear brake lever tip here is spring loaded, so we can easily spin that around 180 degrees if we're riding on the road. That lowers it down a little bit. Spin that back 180 degrees and it raises the tip up. And then likewise with the gear lever, there's 2 bolt hole positions of the gear lever for the other side to raise and lower the gear lever. So spring-loaded tip on the gear lever, but down here you can see there's 2 bolt hole positions at the bottom of the lever. So at the moment I've got that raised up to suit off-road riding with thicker motocross boots. But if we're going to be on the road, all we need to do is pull that bolt out, 30 seconds, easy, you can drop that down. And
compared to what we have to do normally, with the nut and bolts and...
Weight-wise, they feel really good too. 201 kilos dry, so about 220 kilos with a full tank of fuel.
Which is comparable to the KTM.
Yeah, KTM 890, the Norden. Africa Twins are a little bit heavier and they certainly feel it too. The Tenere's getting close to it, the Tenere's a little bit lighter, but it feels really good. When you're up standing on the bike, it's nice and narrow between your knees because it's a V-twin engine. It keeps it really nice and narrow between your knees whether you're sitting or standing on the bike, and the ergonomics through transition, nice and smooth, which that was one thing I was really happy to see. Ergonomics are awesome. And with the fuel tank, they've done a good job of keeping it sort of narrow enough here, but also a lot of the weight of the fuel is actually held down reasonably low. So even though, it's a white tank and it's sort of sitting up high here, the bulk of the fuel's kind of held down this area, so it does help to keep that weight low. And you feel it when you're riding it; it feels nice and light.
And we were also talking the other day about the rally seat. So if you're a bit taller rider or you like to come, have a flatter seat. Yeah.
So there is a one-piece seat that runs across here. It'll raise the seat height up about 20 mils roughly, but it sort of does away with this bump then. Being a one-piece seat, it's a nice smooth transition, both when you're moving backwards and forwards on the bike, but also because it's a little bit taller, it helps with that transition between standing and sitting. You can, if you're running the split seat like this, you can also get I'll just take this main rider seat off. You can get accessory higher and lower seats for the main rider seat here. So they're easy to change out and swap. And also there's two bolts back here that we can easily remove that pillion seat, and you're left with a nice flat tray back here. Basically, I call it like a ute. You've got a nice flat tray there so you can put bags or whatever on there, and it keeps it nice and low. It's a lithium battery fitted standard, so they've helped to keep the weight nice and low with that. There's a 12-volt power outlet underneath the seat there, say for a heated vest or something like that.
Compressor in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Up, you get a flat.
Yep. They've also got a USB outlet on the left-hand side of the dash there as well. So, you can plug straight in there as standard with the USB. So I'm running a quad lock mount with that. And in behind the dash there as well, it's pre-wired for GPS with switched power. So there's a little plug there. You can basically just cut the end off and have it pre-wired for 12-volt power for your GPS.
And also, the other thing I was going to ask, the suspension, is it adjustable? Or?
Yeah, it is. So really good suspension. That was one of the things I was really relieved with on this bike. So it's Kayaba suspension, front and rear, and Kayaba's got a really good name in the off-road, motocross market for building good quality suspension. So on the forks, for example, we've got adjustable compression and rebound clickers, but we've also got adjustable preload on the fork springs. And then likewise on the shock, obviously adjustable preload and compression and rebound damping adjustment as well.
Is it easy to get to, Nick?
Yeah, it is. So the the preload adjuster, a hydraulic one just on the side there. You've got one of your suspension clickers. I think that's the rebound down the bottom there, and compression up top. So pretty easy to get to. And the biggest thing for me with that suspension is it gives you really good feedback and feel, so you can feel what the tyres are doing underneath you, and it doesn't kind of just crash through the stroke. I mean, that was one thing we did a bit of testing on the pre-production version of this bike in Italy back in December, and we had a lot of the other bikes there to compare with back to back, and riding the Japanese bikes in particular compared with this one, they all just tended to crash through the stroke and there wasn't a lot of control in the suspension, whereas this Kayaba suspension gives you really good feedback. You can find the traction, and it handles little corrugations really nicely as well.
So at our weight, like I'm 77, you're a bit lighter than me.
About the same, yeah.
About the same. And you ride pretty hard, so the suspension standard is...
Yeah, look, it feels pretty good. To be honest, I haven't given a really thorough thrashing yet off-road. Like, I had a good ride about 10 days ago around here locally and hit a couple of, woe boy erosion humps on it and didn't get any bottom out, doing that, sort of normal antics you might get up to. But yeah, look, I still haven't ridden it, 10 tenths yet, but it feels really good. Hey, it'll come. change your tyres and yeah, get into it a bit more. That's one thing too, I guess. So the Pirelli Rally STR tyres are fitted standard, and I think they're a really good choice. They're great on sort of dry gravel, really good bitumen grip, but they do, you know, they're going to struggle a little bit in the sort of soft terrain that we've got here. That yeah, they're a fairly big block, so they're going to struggle to dig in a little bit on the soft terrain. But if you change to some more aggressive knobbies that transform the character of the bike,
which is what we're going to do straight away.
Yeah, oh yeah, got to be done.
Yeah. Extra wise, is any companies like with baggage or, you know, protection for the fuel tank?
Yeah, so Ducati have got a massive range of accessories available for it already, or they're going to be coming out the next sort of 2 weeks. So with Ducati, you can actually order a couple of different packs. So they've got like an off-road pack and a touring pack, and that will bunch together a whole lot of the accessories and do it at a better price. So for example, with the rally pack, you can get that one-piece rally seat. There's auxiliary fuel tanks that go on the back here, so another 8 litre fuel capacity that you can bolt onto the back of the bike. And that all comes in the rally pack, and then you can buy the off-road kit, which is crash bars, improved bash plate on the sump, headlight guard and things like that. So Ducati, you've got a lot of kits already, and there is a few of the aftermarket companies are starting to put out some accessories, little tail tidies and bits and pieces like that. Barkbusters have already got handguards available for them. We've already got Unifilter Australia have got foam air filters made for them already. They're in stock, ready to go. So that was something we, you know, as soon as we got the pre-production bike here in Australia, I took it down to Unifilter Australia, and they've made up foam air filters for us already. So they're good to go.
The foam, they're oiled?
Yeah, oiled filter. So the standard air filter in this is a paper element filter, as a lot of the bikes are. The air filter is, or the air box is underneath the fuel tank, so we've got to remove the fuel tank to service the air filter, which is a bit of a bummer. But time-wise, I've done it a couple of times now. It takes about 15 minutes to get into the air filter, do your cleaning or whatever, refit the fuel tank. So for a lot of people in Australia, I think fitting that foam air filter is a good option.
Yeah, is that it's about the same as when you used to have the old Beamer 800s, maybe?
Yeah, pretty similar. I mean, the Beamer had that plastic panel there, and the air filter was up the front, and there was half a dozen screws or more that you had to take off. So look, it's probably similar. There's a few precautions, a few things you want to be careful of. Obviously, cleaning air filters yourself, but it can be done fairly quickly. So the good thing with it is too, I measured the height of the air intake on this bike is 1 metre off the ground. So, you could effectively go through a river that's 1 metre deep, which is, way up here somewhere. So that's one other good thing. And also the air that it's drawing in is from up high and towards the front of the bike. A lot cleaner air. Yeah.
We know other bike companies have got them up the back there. Yeah. They're not that good.
Yeah, chokes it fairly quickly.
All right, Nick, well, that's a bit of a rundown. Like, obviously, brakes are Brembo, which I can see, which are top-notch.
And really good calibration with the ABS and the traction control too. So when you go through all the different levels, you can absolutely feel the difference. And the thing I'd say with that enduro mode I mentioned, I think a lot of people are going to be really happy riding the bike in that enduro mode, especially if they're a less experienced off-road rider. It really helps to look after you and help you relax when you're, in skatey sort of circumstances off-road. But obviously, if you're a more experienced rider like yourself, go into rally mode, it gives the motor a bit more pep, and you can also then change that traction control level, as I mentioned, and turn it off altogether if you want. Make it more aggressive.
Gone through pretty much the whole bike, but what about servicing? Like, what's the intervals there?
So obviously, first service at 1,000 Ks, like every other brand, is pretty much, and then your regular oil changes at 15,000 kilometres. And then this bike does have a desmodromic valve system on it. So with the Ducatis, it's basically got a cam lobe that opens the valve as well as closes the valve. That needs to be checked and serviced by the dealer at 30,000 kilometres.
That's a fair whack of time.
Yeah, so it's not, a lot of kilometres, and 15,000 kilometres for your regular oil changes. Come and have a look at the front though, Fuge.
All right.
This is one of the things I love. The DRL headlight on this, I think, looks really trick. It's got the main LED in the centre there as well, but just when you're running in normal sort of daylight mode, you've got that DRL LED ring, and I really love the look of that.
It's a good looking front.
The neat thing too is that white colour. It's not just a flat colour. It's got a sort of a matte finish to it and a bit of depth. And when you see it in person, it looks really cool.
And so price-wise, other than the looks look amazing. I'm a bit of a fan, as you know.
Being Italian and all.
Yes. Look, I've never been into Ducatis at all. Like I've never, I'm not a road rider or whatever.
Yeah.
But when they started making this, and I've looked at it, and then the first time I come around here, I thought, gee, this thing's going to shake up the market. But, So price-wise, where are we sitting?
So 24,700 is the right-of-way price in Australia. So that's with everything that we've talked about, obviously, other than that Termignoni exhaust. And the only thing you don't get for that money is the heated hand grips. So it's already pre-wired for that. You just don't get the hand grips. But it does have the cruise control and all the electronics, ABS traction control that we've talked about. Yeah, it's not like you've got to tick extra boxes to get that functionality. So yeah, 24,700 right away. It's a really good value for money. They've come in below a lot of the competition. So like you said, it's going to set the cat amongst the pigeons and give a bit of a shake up to the market. There's a lot of pre-orders. I mean, we're here now, early September, and the bikes have only just hit the market. They're starting to get out there in the public now. And, there's orders going well into next year already. So I think it's going to be a really popular one next year. There's going to be a lot of people, ticking the order box for this one. And I think once people see it in the flesh, start to read more of the reviews, the first time I got on it, I was just going, yes, 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 yes. It's ticking all the boxes for me.
I've read every magazine, and I'm looking forward to throwing a leg over in a minute.
Yeah.
Taking it for a bit of a run down the highway and into bush.
See what you think?
Yeah. Hopefully I won't. No, I'm not going to.
Don't even say it.
It's insured, isn't it? All right, Nick. Well, thanks, mate. Thanks for your time. And
no worries.
I appreciate the time and effort you put into showing us and the viewers what's involved with the new DesertX.
I'll be keen to hear your feedback.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Cool.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, mate.
See you, mate.
Cheers.
Bye. What do you call that exhaust?
Termignoni. Termignoni? I don't know, how does the Italian say it?
Yeah, listen out. That is lovely.
It's got really nice little pop to it as you're on the overrun or backing off. It gets that little pop.
Sounds good. I throw my leg over the DesertX and start heading out of town. So I'm going to go about 10 k's south of Port Macquarie, so there's a 100k zone, so I'll have a bit of a squirt on the tar. Before we hit Jolly Nose in the State Forest and National Park down there, I'll do some open forestry roads. Never owned a bike with a quick shifter before, and oh my goodness, this thing is super smooth. Obviously, I'm not riding this bike flat knacker through the scrub. It's not mine. I don't want to bend it. But anyway, the suspension, stocko, with me weighing about 77 kilos, is just prime. It's sucking up all the bumps that everything that I've hit so far. Spending a fair bit of time off-road, standing up position for me is always a must. I felt instantly comfortable on this bike standing up. I didn't ride it obviously through some single track or anything really crazy, but just the main fire roads that I rode, it handled really well standing up. So comfortable, perfect riding position. Now, I've only been living with this bike for the last couple of hours, so I've done about an hour in the bush and about an hour on the tar. I'm going to just go through a bit of the wind position. The wind, I had a little bit of buffeting on my arms, not too much, at 110. The quick shifter is super sweet. The screen is adequate. It's far enough forward to keep the cockpit real nice and neat and clean, and I didn't have any buffeting on my helmet. Now, it may be just my helmet that's good, but I put my hand above my head and it was hitting just on the top of my skull. So pretty much no buffing at all. Other than that, the bike was just beautiful. Cruise control was just lovely. I just sat back there and just cruised back into port. I mean, I could just grab this bike tomorrow, put a set of heated hand grips on it, bark busters, set of knobby tyres, bit of luggage, and head around Australia, and there'd be nothing you couldn't throw at this thing. Okay, so that's just my opinion as a pretty average rider. But anyway, hopefully you got something out of that. Well, that's a wrap, guys. Hope you've enjoyed this latest episode. I want to thank a big special thanks to Nick Selleck for lending me his motorbike this afternoon and giving me a rundown of all the modes that's on this motorbike. Mate, I really enjoyed it. So hopefully this information was helpful for you guys that maybe are looking and getting a new bike. Look, I tell you what, you won't waste your money on these DesertXs. If you are looking for one, mate, get yourself a test ride. These things are a weapon. All right, guys, thanks very much, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.